I'm glad to see that Paradox has been really taking its time with showing us the steppe maps as well as how exactly the nomad areas of the world are depicted within the Mongol Empire. So today I'm going to be going over two particular dev diaries from Tinto Talks, or EU5, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be the one about Chagatai in Tibet as well as the Golden Horde dev diary 2, which shows us the updated version of what exactly is happening within Eastern Europe as well as the steppe lands themselves. So we're going to start with the Golden Horde one, since it's more logical. We start from the east and work our way towards the west. And I said that the other way around again. I mean, start from the west to work our way to the... I know the directions, I swear. Now, in 1337, the Golden Horde is under the rulership of Uzbek Khan, who is a part of the Borjigin dynasty. Uzbek Khan only ruled between 1313 and 1350 something. So he was technically the longest ruling leader of the Golden Horde, but the fact that he ruled for like a few years goes to show that people didn't really live for long when they ended up being leaders of this particular entity today. Now, this particular map mode is with the wastelands shown separate. So we see in the southern parts here of the Golden Horde a lot of corridors. That means this is all impassable terrain. This is not colonizable, right? This is just impassable terrain. So these are corridors. That feels so weird to me that these massive, vast amounts of land are just flat out not livable. So these are never going to be provinces. These are just going to end up wasteland. That's fine. Okay. I guess it's going to provide some interesting strategic and tactical situations, right? Where if you really want to secure the southern parts of your empire, you just make a massive fortification here, another massive fortification here. And quite literally, these two fortifications protect a huge swathe of land. And then for added protection, you can just take the whole corridor and make another fortification on the other end, right? Also, this is a little bit weird, but why is this corridor going into the Aral Sea here? And then that's it. There's no connection to anything else. It's just like, what's the point of this corridor here? Take note, the changes over in Eastern Europe, I do assume are not final. So there's still going to be some rework done for the Russian principalities. Don't think about too much this particular area. We see some changes like Kiev here and Chernihiv, Mstislav, and the changes that we've already covered in the previous dev diary where we had the revision for the Polish lands essentially, but the Russian principality themselves have yet to be revised. That is confirmed by Paradox, so keep that in mind. Unfortunately, we still have Moldova shown as completely under control of the Golden Horde. Again, this is highly unhistorical, so I hope that this is not final. Otherwise, I'm gonna be very sad. I'm gonna be very, very sad. You know, I just realized, but the Chagatai Horde, pretty much a nation of passages. Like every single area of the Chagatai is in essence a passage here. There's so much impassable terrain in this area, it's ridiculous. This is the most bottleneck chokehold sort of area in the entire game so far. And hey, I'm glad to see Kocho here. So Kocho is actually an Uyghur kingdom that was a tributary or a vassal, better yet, of the Mongols, and they were Buddhist. So we're gonna see the Uyghurs before they got forced to convert to Islam in the late 1380s, 1390s by the leader of the Chagatai Horde, which the Kocho was basically a vassal of the Chagatai by that point. Javier says that despite the fact that it's pretty imposing, the Golden Horde had internal issues. That is an understatement of the year, but yes, true. So you'll notice in some of the maps and in the future when we talk about the content for the Hordes, the Golden Horde also heads its own imperial organization, the Tatar Yoke, as we know already, as shown in the previous Tinto map. So this is the Tatar Yoke as it stands right now. Basically, we've got Rostov, Ryazan, Muscovy, Murom, Tver, Kiev, Halichia, Volhynia, a lot of Russian principalities. Surprisingly, we also have quite a few of them that are not a part of the Tatar Yoke. Nizhny Novgorod, Dimitrov, Kostroma, Vyat. Yeah, this is not final. This definitely is not final. This cannot be final. No, I'm not going to even talk about this. I'm 100% sure this is not final. Muscovy does hold the Grand Principality of Vladimir, so it is the enforcer of the yoke. Basically, Muscovy was collecting the tribute from all the other Russian principalities and piling it up together and then shipping it over to the Golden Horde. So what they, as you probably know by now if you watch my videos, what the Muscovites did is they didn't send all the money to the Golden Horde and they skimmed a lot of it and they used it to grow in power, grow in strength, to the point where eventually in the 1400s they managed to break away from the Tatar yoke and crush the Golden Horde. Now we do have some society pops here too, quite a few society pops actually for that matter. We've got the Selkuper people, Hongorayan people. Hongorayan, wait a second, are these guys related to the Hungarians? Technically this is the Ural Mountains that we're seeing here. before. So I guess it's possible. Well, it's kind of a little bit east of the Ural Mountains. I don't think these are Hungarians. Just weird that their name is so similar. They would be, no, this is basically close to Chagatai. These are not the Hungarians. Who are these Hongorayans? I've never heard of these people before. Is this an invention? I'm actually curious if you guys know about this. Let me know in the comment section. Then we also have the Altayan people. Now these guys I do know about. So they're Turkic people essentially from the Altai Mountains, and the name for the Altai culture group, which we had a while back, is actually derived from these people. Then to the west we also have Bashkorstani people, and in the Ural Mountains themselves we have Tabarian, Pelimian, Belogorian, Hundan, Liapinian, Obdorian. Holy snaps, that's a lot of different cultures there. Oh, actually this is a much better resolution map, to be fair. Soswan people, okay, I'm just gonna trust them on this because I'm not really aware of Ural Mountain pops, to be fair. I don't know all these natives. So these are depicted as society of pops, which essentially means that if they get the right advancements, they might even pop out as their own countries. So you gotta be careful and wipe them out before they do. Hey, I'm just kidding. I would totally not do that when I'm playing as Russia. Totally not. I'm not gonna culturally convert everyone to my culture. I wouldn't do that. I will. I definitely will. That's the first thing I'm gonna do, actually. I'm forced to, okay? I need to have, what, 50% of the pops in the province, my culture, to core it up? I have to. Johan is forcing me to. I totally am not gonna enjoy it. I'm not. Shut up, man. Now, the location map mode is just freaking huge, and it's massive. It's just massive. There's like a few thousand locations here. These are the locations in the northern parts above, basically in the Siberian lands. All just corridors, in essence. Terrain-wise, we've got, as you would expect, Arctic in the north, continental in the center, cold, arid around the wastelands and the, well, not wastelands. They're like steppe lands, I guess, as well as desert to a certain extent in Kazakhstan, modern Kazakhstan, and the Stans, essentially. And then most of this is flatlands, with, of course, the exception being... Wait a sec. Wait a sec. Did they just make the Ural Mountains flatlands and hills? What? Okay, so the highest peak is Mount Narodnaya, which is 1,800 meters. That is not a hill. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. That is not a hill. Look at this picture here. Does this look like a hill to you? It is not a hill, okay? I don't know who came up with the idea of making the Urals hills and flatlands, but that is just flat out inaccurate. I'm sorry. That's just 100% inaccurate right there. This is honestly painful. This is actually painful to look at right here. That definitely needs a revision. Now, we do have, of course, sparse in the north because nothing grows because it's really cold in the northern bits. Then we got forests, a lot of grasslands, and sparse in the south as well, and woods in between the sparse grasslands and the forest. So this is really accurate. I like this. This is good. Development map mode, it's bad. It's just really bad. It's bad all over here. The only area where it's not bad is kind of the areas around the Russian principalities, I guess. To give a better picture of the development map mode, so Muscovy is the highest development. The city of Muscovy is the highest development in this entire region. Then we've got Tver, Smolensk, a little bit yellowish, so that's pretty decent development. The city of Novgorod itself is pretty decent development, and for some reason the rest of the principalities is average to bad, and then south of that, around where Kazan is, it's high development. Like, compared to the Muscovite principalities, this is high development. Why? This would be like mostly nothing. Am I wrong about this? Is so weird to me. This is a very interesting choice. I'm curious why this is like that. And then we also have Kiev, which is red. I mean, sure, the Mongols did completely wipe out Kiev and destroyed the countryside and ravaged that area that it literally took them about 300 years to just get back on track with everybody else. So this is actually kind of accurate, to be fair. Interesting choice for the southern parts and the western parts. Yeah, no, I guess that would be part of the ravaged land, wouldn't it? And then, of course, most of this has been ravaged and is very low pop, very belligerous for a really long time, very bad development. I don't know about this though. Teodoro and the Genoese colonies should be a slightly better development, I'd say, no? Because they were important trade cities, at least in that area. There should be some more slightly higher development trade cities, at least by the coastlines here. Circassia, I guess, is the same today as well. And then Georgia and these lands are mixed, mostly red with a little bit of yellow. The Golden Horde around the Siberian lands is just almost black, which I'm assuming is like, what, one development or whatever is the minimum for that area too. And then we can see in the Chagatai Horde, we've got a little bit of a different situation, but we'll go into that in its own dev diary after this one. These are the harbors now. So we have quite a few natural harbors that are really good around the Crimean Peninsula and actually in Circassia too, as well as what is that, Azov, I think. Now the cultures map mode is, let me actually zoom in on this, changed from before. So we've already seen from the Polish dev diary that we've got Smolenskian, Severian, Ruthenian, Mishari we've got as well, Kazani, Udmurt, Homi, Pomor, Muscovite, Novgorodian, a little bit of Vespasian there. A lot of Uzbeks we've got. Where's the Kazakhs, bro? Isn't there like Kazakhs supposed to be? Is Kazakhs and Uzbeks the same? Or am I just being a Pepega? Kyrgyz we have as well here. A lot of various Siberian native cultures we've got as well. Quite a lot of them actually. Yerle Kalik, which I've never heard of before. Mansi. Kanti, I know, yes, this is pretty accurate. There's still quite a few Kanti speaking people in that area today. Nogai, Astrakani, Crimean. So this is basically about the same as it is in EU4. I have to say, I would like to see more of a hash between these areas, right? To, again, portray the admixture between these different people. And also, maybe mix it up with some of the previous cultures here. Because sure, these people migrated here 200 years prior. Some of them 100 years prior. But there were still people here before. There should still be quite a few of them. Minimum 50% of the areas here should be a different culture than just Nogai, Crimean, and so on. There should be a lot of Ruthenians in this area, Russians in this area, a lot of different Iranians in this area actually too, mixed in the southern parts, what I'm showing here. So can we take a second and look at how many cultures we have in this really small area? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 cultures in like 4 provinces, bro. What the hell is going on in the Caucasus? Why is this allowed to happen? Now we also learned what the Tatar culture group is going to entail. It's going to be basically Crimean, Mishari, Kazani, and Astrakani. That's it. We're also aware that some of the cultures, Mare, Chuvash, might be displaced as noted in the Russian Tinto map, so we'll review and correct that to your feedback. Fair enough. Now this is the religious map mode, guys. Before I go into my rant, Pavia says regarding religion, the matter is a bit worse as the big Sunni blob is just because the main religion of the Golden Horde is Islam after the conversion of Uzbek Khan, but that's obviously incorrect. I agree. Also, as we have been able to forecast development time on how pagan divisions will be during this autumn, we'll make a comprehensive review of the religion as well to gain a good distribution of shamanism, paganism, Tengrism, and Sunni Islam. Okay, so that means it's not final. I'm really glad to hear that because honestly, Uzbek Khan, the guy that is literally in charge of the Golden Horde in the start date, he only became leader in 1313, okay? He officially made Islam their official religion of the Golden Horde a few years before the start date. And sure, there were Muslims, quite a few of them in the Golden Horde, but it was not the majority. If anything, I'd say maybe 30 to 40% of the Golden Horde would be following Sunni Islam, with the rest being an amalgamation of everything else. We got animists, shamanists, Tengris, Orthodox, even Nestorians, quite a few of them actually, quite a few Nestorians, even Shiites we had a lot of them. So this is really inaccurate in my opinion. So I'm glad to hear that this is not final because this is just not it. This is really not it. It's like me saying, oh, we just made Romania Catholic in 2000. Since 2000, it's been 24 years and everyone's 100% Catholic now. Does that actually make sense to you? No, it doesn't, does it? The raw material map mode, I don't know if it's even any point checking this out because as you would imagine, there's a lot of raw materials. This is a massive amount of land and it's filled up with everything. There's a lot of livestock. It's not so diverse as other areas of the map. You can see here it's mostly horses and livestock. That's it. And wild game. We don't have any of the raw materials except in the mountain areas in the north. We don't have a lot of the more precious materials either. Very sparse and very separate from one another from what I can tell. Pavia himself mentions that most of the mineral hub is in the Ural Mountains where there's plenty of copper, iron, gold, lead, and coal. Makes for very mid to late game interesting spot whilst playing Russia Muscovy. Now the markets, we've got quite a few of them. We've got Sarayjuk, Kimgitura. I'm not gonna pronounce all of these. I don't want to butcher them. I feel bad butchering them already. He mentions that locations that have zero market access, which is the case in several areas, there's basically this. There's no coloring. Okay, I see. And we see here the actual city where the market is based in. Population wise, 6.2 million people in the Golden Horde. So that is pretty freaking scary if you ask me. Now, let's talk about Chagatai and Tibet. This is actually presented by Roger Korominas, so it's not Pavia. Apparently they got got rid of Pavia. They chained him up in the basement. They mentioned that he's on vacation. They're lying, clearly. He's totally chained in the basement, and he's not allowed to come out until he redoes the religious map mode of the Golden Horde. I heard this from a good source. I didn't just make it up, trust me. Now, the map itself is very different when you look at it with just the wastelands and when you look at it without the wastelands. So we're gonna look at it without the wastelands, so we actually see where exactly everything is, because this is just a set of impassable terrains with corridors. That's it. This looks like an actual map. Roger says that Chagatai starts in a strong position with remnants of the old kingdom of Kocho as its vassal. The internal situation of it is not that stable, with a lot of religious struggle. Yes, in this particular time period, Chagatai really struggled with the religious situation. It had a lot of Buddhists, it had a lot of animists, shamanists, tengris within its realms, and roughly about 50 to 60 years later, it started pursuing a very heavy purge policy where it basically genocided anybody that didn't convert to Islam. So that in a nutshell is why the Uyghurs today are Muslims and why everybody else in that area is Muslim. He also mentioned there's a certain 1-year-old baby around that may cause them some problems in the future. Yeah, totally. Let's just call him Timur for no reason. Let's call him Timur. And the South Tibet is under the control of the Sakya monastery, with the many Tibetan estates under its umbrella, while the Sakya itself bows to the authority of the Yuan dynasty of China. So now let's take a good look at the map. The Chagatai horde is pretty massive, but as you notice from the wastelands, it's kind of not as strong as the Golden Horde is, which actually owns lands and not just has color over wastelands, right? We do have the what's left of the Kocho. Technically in 1335 they stopped being a vassal of the Mongols and got transferred over to the Chagatai. So they're basically under new administration, and way worse administration than the last one, because ooh boy, the Chagatai were pretty fucking brutal with the Kocho. We also have Mangalai in the central part of the Chagatai horde, and then we have Tibet as well as Mariugu, Guji, all of the various subjects here. And considering this massive green area here, which they're all subjects of, we all know that's Yuan. But here's my thing. Why is Yuan green and it's not red? I don't know why. In my brain, I don't know why. For some reason, when I think of Yuan, I think of red. Interesting choice to go for green Yuan. I kind of felt like Yuan should be red. Maybe because of the flag they have. Maybe I'm thinking red. I don't know. But yeah, all of Tibet is essentially a tributary of Yuan, as you would expect, as is other parts of Asia for that matter. And then in North India, we've got an amalgamation of various Nepali kingdoms alongside the Himalayan plateau here, well, before the plateau really. The dynasty is pretty much all of them Borijin, which is the descendant of Genghis Khan. Location map mode, if you want to look at it, again, Dev Diary is going to be in the description. I'm not going to go through that. Provinces, I feel like you cannot really make any modern countries with these provinces, can you? It would be a little bit difficult to do the shapes of modern countries. I know some people like to do that. I like to do that in EU4 at least. The areas are also pretty big actually. Dzungaria, Tarim, Western Gobi, Mongolian Great Lakes. Terrain map mode around the Himalayas, as you would expect, it's mostly mountains. And then we have plateau in the Himalayan plateau itself with hills around there too. Then we got flatlands in the Chagatai areas alongside a lot of course, mountains. Pretty much the entire area is either cold, arid, or Arctic, because it's just really freaking cold because of the high elevation in these lands. Then Himalayas pretty much desert or sparse, with grasslands in the actual Chagatai lands, and in the western parts of Chagatai we have desert once more. Honestly, this is probably one of the more interesting areas of the world, because you've got Arctic climate simply because of the elevation, not necessarily because of the sun, right, as is the case in the North and the South Pole. The development map mode, the Chagatai don't really have much development. We've got a couple of cities here that are a little bit higher development. I would assume some type of more important city. This would be Transoxiana's capital, wouldn't it? Is this Samarkand or something? Am I wrong? I might be wrong. There's a clear divide between India and Tibet, as well as the Hordelands. Like, look at the development, man. Even Kashmir is basically super green, which I would assume is like, what, 30, 40 maybe development, compared to everything else north of that, which is like nothing development. The cultures, we've got Uzbeks, Kyrgyz, and they did change actually cultures between the Golden Horde Dev Diary and this one a little bit. They changed. We've got Khwarezmian from the old Khwarezmian Empire, Tajiks, Afghans, which I would assume the Afghans are basically the Pashtuns. Then in Tibet itself, we've got Amdoa, whatever that is. I've never heard of that. Learn something every day. We got Kampa, Utsang, Changpa, Ladakh, which is right next to Lachikin. Get it? Ladakh and Lachikin. It's a bad joke. It's a bad joke. Don't worry about it. Then in the northern parts of Tibet, we've got a lot of Uyghurs basically in the Xinjiang province of modern China, mixed in with Khwarezmians and then Kyrgyz and Uzbek. So it's an amalgamation of everything, as well as Mongolian and Oirat. So we have Mongolian as a separate culture from Oirat, and we've got pockets of Mongolian within Oirat lands. Now, I would assume that Chagatai would either be Kyrgyz or Uzbek as primary culture, right? Or Mongolian. I'm not sure. What would be their primary culture? Also, I am curious if they're going to do the divide between Mogolistan, which would be the western part of the Chagatai Empire or Horde, and Chagatai itself. Because in 1340, half of Chagatai, this area here, split away from Chagatai and formed Mogolistan, which was annexed by Timur later down the line during his conquest. The religious map mode is pretty diverse, and I'm glad to see that. I'm glad they didn't just make everything Sunni like they did in other parts of the world. So we've got significant amounts of Mahayana Buddhists. In fact, it's the majority all over here from what I can tell, as well as we got some types of other versions of Buddhists and animists and whatever all around sprinkled. We got Tengrists here, we got Shiites, we got Sunnis, we got even more Tengris all around the Oirat and Mongolian parts. We got primarily Tengris, and then we have the encroaching of Islam all over the western parts of the Chagatai Horde, with some small pockets of, what is this? Is this just like lakes? Oh, it is lake. I was like, what is that color? I was about to be like, what kind of new religion is in here? It's a lake. It's the lake religion. Roger mentions that the ruler of the Chagatai was actually Nestorian. We don't actually know that for sure. We do know that he was baptized. We don't know what kind of faith though, considering that pretty much the only Christian denomination in Asia at the time was Nestorian. It's likely true. Yes. So his name was Changshi, and he ruled between 1335 and 1337, and he was assassinated by his own family, which were Muslims. They didn't really like the fact that he converted to Christianity. In any case, he was assassinated, and he is seen as the last effective ruler of Chagatai because he did manage to do some really interesting things in these 2 years, apparently. Had a pretty firm grasp on the empire and the horde itself. You know, this kind of sounds like the kind of character you could write a book about, considering everything, right? Tibet had a stronger presence of both Buddhism and Bon. Yes, we see that pretty well mixed over there. One thing I want to say here is that we are studying options on breaking up the big Mahayana block that we currently have, so understand Mahayana is a work in progress. I personally don't think you should break up Mahayana, because if you do that, then how are you gonna do? If you break up Mahayana, by that logic, you should break up Sunni Islam too, and a lot of other religions too, on basically different schools of thought, which wouldn't make too much. That would be way too CK3 for me, in my opinion. Now, the raw material map mode is super diverse, but mostly it's livestock and horses and all that kind of stuff in the Chagatai areas itself. Market-wise, we've got a few markets: Samarkand, Almaty, Kashgar, Turpan, along the Silk Road going into China. Population-wise, Chagatai is the largest population-wise horde, 14 million population in Chagatai itself. Tibet only 300,000, and while technically Yuan kind of would qualify for horde, it'll be fine. It's not a horde, but originally it was, right? And yeah, they got like what, a lot more than 14 mil. Next week is going to be Mongolia and Manchuria, so that's going to be really interesting. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one.